the Iran war, the great power rivalry which is unfolding in the Middle East. When we think about it, we go straight towards US, we go straight towards Israel. But there is a very important stakeholder which is trying to secure oil supplies, bring in strategic influence, and also maintain geopolitical relevance amidst all of this. And it is playing the game of low visibility but high gains. And that stakeholder is none other than China. China might not be directly involved in this Iran war, but there is a lot at stake for China, and China wants to gain a lot from this as well. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh, and today we are going to understand that how come China is so much indirectly involved in Iran war, where it is not being seen, where it is not being counted, but if you look at it, China has a lot in place. So let us begin with understanding the first very factor here, that when we are talking about China, why are we labeling it as a silent player? Is it a player as well? Should we count it? And if we are counting it, what is the basis of that count? So when we are looking at the given scenario, you can clearly see that China sides with Iran. China has been clearly talking about that Iran war should not have happened. They will not support the regime change. A lot is at risk in Iran, and there has been a lot of things that are coming from China in support of Iran. But when we talk about this support is not ideological. This support is not just logistical. This support is a lot about what China gains from this region. When you are talking and looking at Middle East, this is a region of US influence. This is a region of US allies. And if China wants to counterbalance that, the only place it has in that area is Iran. If we are talking about counterbalancing US's position, China has the only friend Iran. If we are talking about China's energy supplies from Middle East, 13% of it comes from Iran. China gets discounted Iranian oil and it facilitates the sanctioned Iranian economy, which also helps China. There is a lot of technological cooperation, there is a lot of defense cooperation and whatnot. But you must be thinking, that is something that can exist between two nations, and that is not uncommon. But why are we highlighting it in a different way? We are highlighting it in a different way because we need to understand the fact that even though the missiles are coming from US and Israel, a very important indirect stakeholder here is China. And China matters because it is Iran's largest strategic partner in the Middle East. It matters because Beijing heavily depends on this very country for all the Middle Eastern energy supplies, and also Iran was the geopolitical counterbalance from China's end to US's influence. Now, this very conflict also comes in China's favor because this takes away US's strategic focus from Taiwan. We will be trying to understand all of this in detail, that how China is a silent player. It is a silent player because it has limited visibility but high leverage. They don't have any direct military involvement as of now, but they have strong economical, technological and also intelligence links with Iran, which have been highlighted. Now let us try to understand this one by one, starting with the very important factor that how is China dependent on Iran. And when we are looking at dependence, you don't have to focus only on oil dependence because 13% of it comes from Iran. You also have to look into that Iran's exported oil, 80% of it goes to China. Now, what benefits China gets? China gets heavy discounts. Second, it gets stable long-term supply contracts, and that is where China reduces the pressure and vulnerability that it has to the Western energy bloc itself. So, China gets very strategically placed because of Iran here. Other than that, we also get to see clearly that when we are talking about Strait of Hormuz, which is in a very critical situation, we have dealt with this in detail. It is the place where 20% of global oil trade passes through. Now, when this is controlled and closed and threatened by Iran, because Iran is present. If this is Strait of Hormuz, we have Iran present here. Then northern coast of this strait is controlled by Iran. So if any disruption takes place here, this is going to affect China's energy security. But the good part is Iran would not threaten its own partner here. So this is where we get to see that China's energy security angle is involved. But more important factor than that is the fact that China has sustained Iran's economy. Because as I said, 80% of Iran's oil is being bought by China. China has already put in more than $140 billion in terms of just buying Iranian oil. So this all clearly highlights that how closely placed they are there. Be it the investment in energy, banking, infrastructure, be it the belt and road integration. And this is where you see Iran Chabahar port for India. But integration, Iran also is the key node for connecting East Asia and also West Asia and Europe. So a lot of cooperation between China and Iran does exist. Apart from that, when we are looking from the war perspective which is unfolding, we have to understand that how China has been facilitating Iran in terms of not just military technology but also strategic technology, because Iran's women programs, they are the ones which use Chinese dual use components, the missile guidance systems, drone technology, radar electronics. And as I said, the recent reports are also highlighting that Iran is negotiating purchase of Chinese anti-ship cruise missile, and also China has been supporting Iran through intelligence. Now, all of this gives us a perspective into the fact that even though China is not directly involved, there is no military deployment by China, there has been no provision of missiles directly on the front. But at the same time, there is a lot that is going between Iran and China, not just today, but in the past itself. So this gives us a clear idea that China is not going to leave Iran isolated, because a lot is at stake for China, because China has invested a lot there. Now this is where we move to understand that how this war helps China. Because Iran is the place where US is concentrated now, and US will not be able to focus on Taiwan, because Taiwan was another place where US was creating a lot of friction with China, and US-China rivalry was again coming to fore. So this is where China sees that okay, US is strategically diverted, they won't be able to focus on Taiwan because all of their assets would be focused in Middle East itself. This is where China feels advantageous. They feel US would have to spend in Middle East, US would not be focused in Indo-Pacific, and there will be reduced deterrence, especially when we are talking about China in Indo-Pacific region. That means if the Middle East war, the Middle East conflict goes on, US will be engaged there and China would be benefited in Taiwan's strategy. So Iran has facilitated China for very long, and war in Iran is also facilitating China here. So this is something that becomes very important for us to understand, that this is not just about what we are seeing in front, but what is unfolding. And when we know that China is enjoying both ends, when Iran was stable, when Iran was going on, but when Iran is in war, China has something to its advantage. This is where India's strategic concern also arise, because we also are at the energy security risk, importing 85% of our crude oil. From Iran, we import limited amount of oil, but the problem here is Strait of Hormuz. Because Middle East is the place where we get majority of our oil, and from there, because Strait of Hormuz closure, oil price spikes are taking place, inflation, supply disruptions. This is where US has given us a waiver, okay, go ahead, buy Russian oil. But all of this keeps the energy security at risk, of course. And at the same time, we have to look into the connectivity competition, be it with the Belt Road Initiative and Chabahar port that I talked about, or China's presence in Arabian Sea, because the distance of Gwadar port and Chabahar port is not much. It is very limited. So the Chinese influence which is rising in Iran, that is also going to affect India. So we just don't need to look at it what China is getting out of it. We need to balance it in the term that how India is going to look at it and how India should manage all of this. Because a bigger concern for India is how to side or how to balance or how to manage all the parties which are involved in the Iran war as of now. So a lot is unfolding, a lot of stakes are emerging out of it. This is just one dimension that we are referring to. When we are talking about strategic concerns, we also have in front of us the fact that we have to balance a lot, as I mentioned, be it with US, be it with Iran. And as of now, India seems to be looking at that what is unfolding rather than just reacting to it. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section. I'll be leaving you here with a prelims practice question. You can put down your answers in the comment section. That was all. Thank you so much.